Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Welcome, everyone, to Couch Potato Diary. Happy Wednesday. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Coming up on the show today, we're going to be looking at some of the other fighters that you should be watching for at UFC 305. Plus, we will be getting into some hockey talk, some CFL Power Rankings, and our fantasy football preview continues with another fantasy football mock draft. So that is what is all coming up on the show. Let's get right into it and talk some fights. UFC 305 goes this weekend, and in the main event, it is Israel Adesanya against Dricus du Plessis. Co-main event is Kai Kara-France taking on Steve Erceg, and for the breakdown of what to watch for in those fights, that show came out, it's out now, as you are paying attention to this one. But this one is going to be focusing on the non-main eventers that you should be watching for. And we begin that conversation here, with what is third from the top, basically. And it is Mateusz Gamrot against Dan Hooker in the lightweight division. You have two fighters, both in the top 15 in the UFC for this division, with Gamrot sitting at number 5 and with Hooker coming in at number 11. For Gamrot, he's on a 3-fight winning streak. Wins over RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, Rafael Fiziev, and Jalen Turner. It feels like Gamrot is on the cusp of something. It feels like he is right there at 155 pounds. And it feels like there are a few guys, quite frankly, who feel like they are right there at 155. And so this is a gigantic opportunity for Gamrot to be able to separate himself. Dan Hooker, who we'll talk about in a second here, is a real tough fighter. And this would be a real win if he would be able to pick that one up and be able to come out and get a victory here. It would be really, really impressive if he were to do that. And it feels like I said before, it feels like he's on the cusp of something, and if he can go out and pick up a victory here, I would imagine probably not maybe even a number 1 contender's bout, but a very, very important fight would be coming up for him in the back half here of 2024 or into Q1 of 2025. The opposition is Dan Hooker. He has won back-to-back fights after losing 4 of 5. He's going to need a couple really strong performances for people to buy him as a title contender, but in terms of being taken seriously as a fighter at 155 pounds, he has locked that in and then some for his career. But it's kind of what we talked about with Kai Kara-France. Do you want to be the gatekeeper, or do you want to be bursting through that gate and fighting for championship and championship opportunities? This is a fight to kind of decide that, I think, for Hooker. Not to, I guess, we're not going to put the fate of his career on a fight with someone who is 6 things ahead of him. This is an interesting fight. It is a big fight for him. I don't think a loss here means he can't win a championship or anything like that, but it does put him really far away. And it means something drastic, I think, is going to happen in his career for him to be able to get into that contention area, but has been a very good fighter for a very long time. But it's really, really important for him to go out and win this bout. And then after that, quite frankly, there isn't a whole lot on this card, to be perfectly honest with you. I went with another one just so we had 2 in the segment, and it's Tai Tuivasa against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, a couple of fighters who it feels like the heavyweight division, quite frankly, is passing them by, with Tom Aspinall coming in and being able to run through. Now, the good thing for both of these guys is that Aspinall is running through everyone, and so that opportunity for a championship, you go down the list, it's like, all right, well, he's kicked that ass, kicked that ass, kicked that ass, kicked that ass. Hey, look at that. I'm here. Hadn't kicked my ass yet. So I guess in that sense, this is a good opportunity. But Tai Tuivasa has lost 4 in a row. Both these guys, like all action type of fighters, but Tai, it felt like he was onto something after a win over Derek Lewis and has basically been getting bludgeoned since. For Rosenstruck, he has won 2 of his last 3, but really when you look at it, like this was a guy who people were touting as one of the more dangerous, more feared strikers in the heavyweight division. But when you go through the resume, it's like the most notable wins of his career, kind of all against old dudes. And that's, I mean, no knock to those guys, but it's not that there isn't really that, okay, here's that stamp victory that Rosenstruck has. And quite frankly, this probably wouldn't be it either, with Tuivasa having lost 4 in a row. But to try to keep your head even a little bit above the current of relevancy here in the heavyweight division, going to desperately need a victory in this bout. So we will see if he is able to come up with that here on Saturday night. But this is a difficult bout for these. It's been a difficult run for both of these guys. And again, aside from that, there isn't a whole lot. You have a lot of guys who are fighting to get back on track. And quite frankly, even some of the local guys are fighting to keep that contract in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Some big news out of the biggest market in the National Hockey League with a new captain being named. Let's talk about it. The Toronto Maple Leafs have named a new captain as John Tavares has the C forcefully ripped off of his chest, and it gets placed lovingly onto the bosom of Austin Matthews, is how I'm sure it went. This seems weird to me. This year kind of feels like, I'm not going to say last day. I've used the Michael Jordan documentary too many times. But this feels end of an era-ish to me this year. Marner's contract is up at the end of the season. They tried to desperately to trade him at some points, and it didn't necessarily go all that well. And so that's probably done. You have new contracts kicking in for some guys, but John Tavares needs a contract extension beyond this year. And so this just, to me, feels like it throws one more talking point into what is already just going to be an absolute batshit crazy season for the Toronto Maple Leafs anyway. And so that the timing of it does just strike me as odd. And it kind of strikes me as change for change's sake. And just, this is what you do, or this is what we're going to do because we haven't been able to fix this roster yet. That's kind of what it feels like to me. And I guess, like, look, I'm not in the room. I don't think I've ever been in the Leafs locker room. And, like, maybe Austin Matthews is already the vocal leader here. And so this is just righting a wrong or something along those lines. But it feels like, again, just adding another story on top of what's already going to be. And then you're going to get the, well, is Austin Matthews really leadership material? Is this fall, whatever? Or if they come out and they're 18-2, you'll get, well, why was John Tavares so dog shit as a leader? And blah, 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 blah. Like, it feels like you are opening yourself up to a lot of conversations and just creating another storyline out in Toronto that maybe you didn't need anyway. So that there could be that. On the other hand, I do wonder if this affects the long-term status of John Tavares, as I wonder if there was a, hey, look, you can have your contract extension. I'm going to need that C from you, though, my guy. I wonder if that is something that maybe played into it here with the Leafs. And they just kind of did okay, we will scratch your back, but you got to scratch our back. And we'll do it in a different way here. So I wonder if there is something along those lines that might be coming here from the Leafs. But I genuinely thought Marner was going to be traded at some point this offseason. And I guess he still could. There was a trade between Pittsburgh and Nashville the other day. But this really does feel like a situation that Marner holds all the cards in, and he is not going to let the Leafs change that for anything. And so he is going to have at least one more season of living out his boyhood dream of playing with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then after that, the offseason will be what it'll be. But we know one thing in Toronto, it's never going to be quiet. Okay, so that is the conversation from the National Hockey League. It is time to shift our focus now to the Canadian Football League, as we get ready for Week 11. Week 11 with today's Power Rankings. All right. It is CFL Power Rankings time. Now, full disclosure, I'm supposed to submit these for 3 down basically as soon as the last game ends, and I forgot this week. So, I filled these out today while I was doing it, and so that is why some more newsy type things have popped their way into the conversation. So, starting at number 9, it's the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Yes, new quarterback, young, exciting, whatever. Quarterback wasn't the problem in Hamilton. It was quite the opposite, actually. And so, like, maybe the youthful exuberance of young Mr. Powell will guide this team to great things in the future. I'm not buying it. This is, for the most part, a bad football team. And they have shown it for most of the year. Coming in at number 8, it is Edmonton. Trey Ford has come in and done a bang-up job, but now he's banged up, and we will see what happens with Edmonton this week as they actually take on Hamilton in a rousing battle. Again, though, this was one of the things that we said, and it's same as Hamilton. Absolutely 100% agree with the change. Wasn't the quarterback's fault. Wasn't McLeod Bethel-Thompson's fault that this team wasn't winning these games. And, or wasn't entirely. He wasn't the biggest problem anyway out in Edmonton. And so I do think that you are kind of looking at a team in transition here. So they stay at number 8. At 7, it's the Calgary Stampeders. Road Calgary Stampeders are number 9 on this list, and home Calgary Stampeders are like number 3. So in the middle of that, we put the Stampeders at number 7. The one thing, and I said this on the Best Bets piece that's out now, the one thing about this team is that they are getting better defensively. And I'll go a bit more into that when we do our CFL picks. But the defense is starting to pick up. Mayer is better at home, so that gives them a good hope this week. But still, a team that needs to get a few things figured out. At 6, a team that's figured out a few things in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They are rolling off of a win over BC. Now they play BC again, who's a little different than the last time they saw them. But still a team that is starting to get things going. And with the top tier of the West starting to come back to Winnipeg, they are a team to really, really watch in the second half of this season. Coming in at 5, it is the Red Blacks of Ottawa. Coming off of a weird tie against Saskatchewan. You have obviously some injury issues at the quarterback spot, which could put this team a little bit lower and probably should have, quite frankly. But the defense has been playing significantly better, I will say, and I think this is a pretty well-coached team, so shout out Ottawa for being able to go out and get the job done. Coming in at number 4, it is Saskatchewan. That was an ugly loss. They are getting Trevor Harris back, so that keeps them afloat here at 4. The defense has been good, has been really, really, really good, but Shea Patterson in this offense has struggled, and the big concern I have is the issues on the right side of this offensive line, and now you have Trevor Harris, who is a rather immobile quarterback. I worry about how that's going to look, especially this week against Montreal. But for now, they are one of the better teams in the league. They get number 4. At 3, it is Toronto. And again, speaking of teams that have seen their defense really step up, the Toronto Argonauts getting Arumalade back. Serezna has been a beast on the defensive line most of this season. Those guys have been great. And now Amos in the secondary just comes up with big play after big play after big play. They have really done a great job of keeping things low so Dukes and Arbuckle can go out and kind of do their thing, and we'll see what happens with the quarterback next week. Speaking of the quarterback position, the BC Lions go out and get Nathan Rourke, and it sounds like he's playing this weekend. This is a major shift, and they were playing quite well under Vernon Adams, but he was starting to struggle a little bit, and he was missing some throw, which is wild that he was like on track to maybe beat Doug Flutie's record, and he was still missing some throws, but that is what the case was for him. And so Rourke is going to come in. He is like no one else in this league and makes this team once again a title contender out in BC. And at number 1, it's Montreal. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback. This defense is excellent. Davis Alexander has been great. Philpott goes down and Rambo steps up. This is just a tremendously built team, and one that is really giving teams a whole lot of problems. Like, they are the team right now that you can really count on in the Canadian Football League. Okay, that is it for CFL talk. Let's shift to the NFL, as it is mock draft season. We've already done 2. Today, we are looking at the number 3 selection in a 12-team half PPR, as our fantasy football preview continues. All right, it is time for another mock draft. We've done 2 so far. So the premise of this, we are going to draft from every spot in a 12-team draft, half point per reception, and just see what the different strategies are for each spot. So as you are consuming this, mock draft 1, mock draft 2 are available. Let's give it a go with mock draft 3. So we've already claimed it. This is on Sleeper, by the way. And so let's get into it. All right, so we have drafted. Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill go 1-2. This is nice. We didn't get CeeDee Lamb in our first one, so we will get him here. And so we are going wide receiver there in our first spot. Bijan Robinson went at 5 after Jefferson at 4. Then it was Chase, Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. A.J. Brown went at 8. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes 11th, followed by Puka Nacua, Saquon Barkley, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, Drake London goes to Team 7. Josh Allen off the board in the second round, followed by Travis Etienne and Devon Achane. So a couple of different type of players going off this time when we haven't had a quarterback go this early just yet. So providing a few different looks that we haven't had before. Olave has not been there in the time that we have done this. Also, Sam Laporta hasn't. I liked waiting until like the 4th and 6th round to be able to get our tight ends and our quarterback. So I don't mind trying to wait it out in this spot here. All the noise around Ayuk at this point, we're probably going to avoid that. Henry and Jacobs, I don't love it. And Kelsey, I feel like there might be a bit of a dip there. So I am going to go Olave. I don't love the quarterback situation, but Olave has been able to survive that. And so I find him an interesting player. So we're going to go Olave here, and we're going to go back-to-back with wide receiver to start. After that, it went Derrick Henry, Laporta, Deebo Samuel, who has been our boy in the first couple of these, and Brandon Ayuk go next. So now we have a spot where we are, I think, really going to need a running back because it does fall off here after this, with Josh Jacobs being available, as is Isaiah Pacheco, Rachaad White as well, James Cook are those available. So I think we are probably going to try to double up on running back here. So I don't love the Jacobs option, but I still think he is a pretty good running back. He is still just 26 years old on what I think is going to be a good offense. So we'll go Josh Jacobs in this spot. And then Pacheco goes almost immediately after. Kelsey went as well. But I'm kind of hoping there's one of Cook or Mixon still left. So you see Collins, Waddle, Mahomes goes, a couple more wide receivers in Evans and Diggs, and then Rachaad White goes. We're seeing the run on quarterback here with Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud also going. Joe Mixon did come off of the board, so that is a little unfortunate for us. And so now we are in this interesting spot here where I don't love not having, like, I don't love the running back options if we wait any longer here at running back. But I am a little bit worried about where we're at quarterback and tight end wise. I think we can wait on quarterback a little bit longer than we can on tight end here. So I'm going to go with Cook, hoping that Team 2, who doesn't have a tight end yet, hoping they don't go tight end in this spot, although they probably go Devonta Smith here, or they probably go Trey McBride. I don't love Kincaid there. So you know what? I'm going to take a bit of a gamble here, and I am going to go Trey McBride and hope that one of the running backs we want is still there. So McBride goes, immediately James Cook goes, Devonta Smith and Kenneth Walker both go. That one stings a little bit. So now we are looking for a second running back here. There's Kamara, Jones, Connor, Montgomery, Swift, and Ramondre Stevenson. So I don't love any of those options, admittedly. At quarterback, it's Anthony Richardson, Joe Burrow also available here, and then Kyler Murray. Feels a little early for Kyler Murray. I think we can wait on that and take a bit of a shot. But I don't love, Alvin Kamara, it just doesn't seem like that burst is there for me with him. But yeah, there's a lot of options in this area that I just don't really like. And we talked about this on Mock Draft 2, where this is why I don't mind 4th, 5th, 6th round going with the quarterback, going with the tight end. So we're going to give it a bit of a different look, and we're going to go Joe Burrow as our quarterback here in the 5th round. After that, Kamara, Jones, and Dell, none of these options that are coming off really excite us. And so we really wanted 2 players of the McBride, Cook, or Walker area. I just don't trust it with Kincaid. I guess Kittle was still there. We probably could use that as a safety blanket now in hindsight, and just kind of rolled with it. But I do like now coming up on this. We have Raheem Mostert still available. 6th round feels a touch high on the value. I think we can kind of play the ADP game here and risk it with him. And so what I'm going to do now is going to go with Jaden Reed, one of the young, exciting receivers for the Green Bay Packers. It is doubling up on the Packers offense, but Jaden Reed is just an intriguing talent to me. And so to get him here in the 6th round, you feel all right about that one. Odunze goes, and then it's Prescott, Addison, Kyler Murray, and now here in the 7th, I do feel like we should go Raheem Mostert. He is our number 2 running back. So I don't love our running back options right now. But again, I like the tight end we have. I like the quarterback we have, and our wide receivers are elite. So I think maybe a bit of a focus now on the running back spot as it comes around. But as I'm saying that, a huge running back run just goes. While I was saying, you know what, let's maybe focus on some running back depth. Najee Harris, Jonathan Brooks, Tony Pollard, Nick Chubb, Javonte Williams, Zach Moss, Jalen Warren, and Devin Singletary all go. So we miss out on a bit of a running back run here. There is Austin Eckler, who is available, as is Trey Benson and Brian Robinson, but I think we can get Robinson a little bit later. Ridley is not one I'm going with. It was just too inconsistent last year. Deontay Johnson, I just don't trust it. I do think that Will Levis is going to be looking DeAndre Hopkins' way quite a bit. So I don't mind going with DeAndre Hopkins here and taking a bit of a risk on the running back situation for our next pick. So let's go DeAndre Hopkins here. After that, it is Ridley, Johnson, Brian Thomas, Christian Watson, and so no running backs come off of the board. So the running backs that are available right now, we have Austin Eckler, Trey Benson, Brian Robinson, Tyjae Spears, Gus Edwards. Those are the backs that are available. Austin Eckler, I don't think he's going to be the number 1 there, but I don't think our guy Brian Robinson's going to be there when we come back. So I don't mind Brian Robinson in the 9th round there. I think he is going to be the starter out in Washington and give us some good minutes out of the running back spot, and again, a little bit of depth in that area. But one thing that's interesting, we focused on a few guys at wide receiver in the first couple, with Watson, with Smith and Jigba, and with Jamison Williams. None of them were, I guess we could have gone with Watson over Nuke Hopkins. That probably should have been the way we went there, but none of them were really available. This one is one of my favorite picks. We have been getting this so far. It is Jerome Ford here in the 10th round. I think he's the starting running back for Cleveland. I think he was solid when called upon a season ago, and so I like that as filling out a bit of our running back depth. And then Zach Charbonnet kind of is the only name out there right now that really interests me. If anything happens to Walker out in Seattle, Charbonnet is our guy. So we were a little hurt by that big running back run, but I think getting Ford and Charbonnet really does set us up in a pretty good spot here for our running backs. And so we're going to come around to the 12th round. It's a 15-round draft. We do have to draft a defense. We do have to draft a kicker. So we really only have a couple of picks left. And this is a lottery ticket that hasn't really been here for us in a spot that made sense so far. J.K. Dobbins was very talented in school. And I just watched, it just happened to pop up, some J.K. Dobbins college tape. The guy, again, I say tape, it was on fucking YouTube. I sound so pretentious when I say that. But he is so talented. And I get, like, he has been banged up, whatever. If he can even stay remotely healthy in that offense that is going to be pretty run heavy, I think there could be something there. And so for a bit of a lottery ticket in that spot, don't hate it at all. And so it comes back around to us. And this is where I'm not really in love with any of the options that are available. So I'm going to get a head start on the defense here. And I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers defense, taking it in the 13th round. We miss out on Ricky Pearsall, which would have been the other one that I would have taken, especially if Ayuk gets moved. That is an option that could be rather intriguing. But we're going to see the defense run kind of sneak up on us here. And so instead of getting the 11th best defense, getting the top one feels pretty good. And now there's a couple of options that are left. Dontavian Wicks with Green Bay is one that might be a little bit interesting. Roman Wilson, maybe, although there's some injury things going on there. Just looking at who is kind of going to be our last dart throw in this particular draft, there isn't a whole lot that is there that I absolutely like. Okay, this is the guy we have to take with our last pick in the last position pick, I guess I should say here. There is like 5% of me that wonders if we have a Jahan Dotson come back this year. So I don't mind the Dotson pick there. We miss out on a couple of the kickers with Tucker and with Butker, but we weren't going to draft Butker anyway. And we were in a good spot to get Evan McPherson, the kicker that we have been targeting. So I didn't love how this one went. There's just that extra team in that turn doesn't really give you a whole lot of options there with, well, it still gives you quite a few options, but it leaves you a little bit more vulnerable when you're waiting for guys coming around the turn. So our starting lineup, our quarterback would be Joe Burrow. Our running backs are Josh Jacob and Raheem Mostert. Our wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb and Chris Olave, with the tight end of McBride. And for our flex, you have Reed out of Green Bay or Hopkins, and then we have Robinson, Ford, Charbonnet, and Dobbins as our running back depth, with Jahan Dotson being a backup wide receiver. So we maybe could have built up our depth at wide receiver, maybe a little bit more, but although looking at it now, I still think it's pretty good. But overall, I still think Team 2 might have been a little bit better when we did mock draft number 2. A couple of notes on this one. I do think that maybe we waited on running back a little bit too long, and I think I panicked a little bit on tight end and quarterback. There was still a George Kittle buffer there. I think if we get James Cook in the McBride spot and get Kittle around later, I feel so much more better about it. So like for those watching on YouTube, in this area here, if we go Cook in this spot, we get Kittle here in the 5th round, and we get Murray instead of Jalen Reed, and then round it out with Mostert in there, I think we are golden. So that's something. I just panicked a little bit on the quarterback and the tight end, because Team 1, we got absolutely annihilated in that spot. So that is going to do it for mock draft number 3. Again, if you are just tuning in for the mock draft, show's called Couch Potato Diary on YouTube and in podcast form. If you're watching this, make sure you like it. If you listen, make sure you review it. Follow me on social media. I'm at Primetime Klein, and I'll talk to all of you later.